The dead king opened his eyes while his bride was still kissing him. For one impossible heartbeat, the entire hall of mourning forgot how to breathe. Elara Vale felt warmth return beneath lips that had been cold for 10 years. The body beneath her shifted. A hand, heavy with the strength of a warrior who had once broken armies, closed around her wrist. Someone screamed. The sound tore through the royal court like a blade through silk. Hundreds of nobles stumbled backward beneath the black funeral banners. Silver goblets struck the floor. Wolves snarled beneath human skin. Guards reached for swords they had sworn never to draw in the presence of the dead king. King Lucien Drax opened his eyes. They were not the dull, clouded eyes of a corpse. They burned silver, not softly, not weakly. They burned with rage, agony, and the terrible awareness of a man who had been awake inside his own death for every one of those 10 years. His gaze locked onto Elara's face. "Dreamblood," he breathed. The word passed through the hall like a forgotten curse. High Priestess Serapha stopped chanting. For the first time since Elara had been dragged into the palace, the priestess looked afraid. Then every mirror in the hall shattered. Glass burst from the walls in a deafening storm. Nobles covered their faces, but the fragments did not fall. Thousands of silver shards froze in the air around the altar, each one holding the same impossible reflection. Elara was no longer dressed in the plain white gown chosen for a sacrificial bride. In every mirror, she wore a crown of pale fire. Beside her stood Lucien in black armor, alive and terrible, his hand locked around hers. Behind them, wolves from every pack knelt before 2 thrones carved from ash and moonstone. The entire court saw it. The false priest saw it. The rival alphas saw it. And Serapha saw the future she had spent years trying to prevent. Lucien's fingers tightened around Elara's wrist. "Do not let her take me again," he whispered. Before Elara could ask what he meant, his body convulsed beneath her. A roar erupted from under the altar. Not a human roar, not even the howl of a wolf. It was the sound of something ancient, striking the walls of a prison that had held it far too long. Darkness exploded from Lucien's chest. It rose into the shape of a monstrous black wolf with antlers of bone and eyes like empty moons. Its jaws opened above him, revealing rows of pale teeth. The court broke into chaos. Guards fled. Nobles shifted. Someone shouted that the dead king had become a demon. But Elara did not run. Perhaps she should have. Perhaps every cruel lesson of her life should have taught her that powerful men did not deserve saving and cursed women survived only by staying invisible. Yet Lucien looked at her. For one brief moment, the feared Dark King did not look dangerous. He looked trapped. Elara threw herself across his body. The beast struck her back. Pain split through her, white and merciless. The force lifted her from the altar and drove the air from her lungs. She heard Lucien roar her name, even though no one had told him what it was. Then darkness swallowed her. 3 days earlier, Elara had still believed the cruelest thing a kingdom could do was force a woman to live as an omen. She had been wrong. She lived beyond the southern edge of the capital in a narrow stone house the villagers pretended not to see. The roof leaked when rain came from the mountains. The hearth smoked. Nothing grew in the garden, except bitter herbs, because someone had salted the earth years ago. No child crossed her path. No mother allowed an unmarried son to speak with her after sunset. No priest welcomed her into a moon shrine. They called her the Hollow Bride, though she had never reached a wedding altar. Her first promised husband died 2 days before their ceremony. Thomas Rell had been kind, nervous, and foolishly determined to prove that fear held no power over him. His horse threw him into the winter river, and his body was found miles downstream with reeds tangled around his throat. Her second betrothed, Lord Edrin, wanted the land attached to her family name. He died of a fever the morning he was supposed to claim her. The third was Caleb, a soldier who had laughed when the villagers warned him. "They are afraid because fear gives ordinary people something to worship," he had told her. He was found beneath a rowan tree 1 week before their vows. There was no wound upon his body, only terror upon his face. After that, no man would stand beneath the same roof as Elara. Women touched iron when she passed. Men crossed the road. Children whispered that death followed her footsteps. For 11 years, Elara had carried the guilt of 3 graves. She stopped defending herself because every explanation sounded like a plea, and she had grown tired of begging people to believe she did not destroy everyone who came close. She learned to live quietly. She gathered herbs for sick children and left them at doors after midnight so frightened mothers would not have to thank her. She repaired her own gowns. She spoke to ravens. She kept her mother's stone pestle beside the hearth and crushed moonwort in the same slow rhythm she remembered from childhood. The only person who entered her home willingly was her uncle Garen, and only when he wanted something. On the morning the royal riders came, he stood beside her fire wearing a new gold clasp he could never have afforded. "You should consider this an honor," he said. Elara continued grinding herbs. Outside, horses stamped upon the frozen ground. Through the crooked shutters, she saw 6 riders in the dark red cloaks of the old moon temple. "An honor does not usually arrive with armed guards," she replied. Garen's mouth tightened. "You have brought ruin to this house." Elara looked up. He had said cruel things before, but that morning his voice carried the confidence of a man who had already sold the person standing before him. 3 dead men, he continued. "Neighbors refusing to trade with us. No workers willing to enter the vineyard. Do you know what your curse has cost me? My parents left you this house, 30 acres, and a vineyard. The vines died after you sold the water rights." His face darkened. Before he could answer, the door opened. High Priestess Serapha Vale entered without knocking. Silver chains covered her black veil. Her robes were white, though no snowflake dared cling to them. She had ruled the old moon temple for nearly 20 years, yet she appeared untouched by age. Only her eyes betrayed her. They were pale and watchful, like ice stretched over deep water. Elara had seen those eyes once before. She had been 7 years old, hidden beneath the floor of her family home, while smoke filled the halls. Her mother had pushed her into the secret space and pressed one shaking finger against her lips. "No matter what you hear, do not come out." Elara had heard her father's wolf roar. She had heard men screaming. Then she had heard Serapha's voice above the flames. "Find the child." Now, standing inside Elara's house years later, the priestess showed no sign that she remembered. That hurt more than hatred would have. "The crown requires a bride," Serapha said. Elara's fingers stopped around the pestle. "For whom?" "For His Majesty, King Lucien Drax." Even Garen lowered his head at the name. Lucien Drax had once been the most feared ruler in the northern kingdoms. Songs claimed he had crushed 3 rebellions before his 25th year and torn out the throat of a rival alpha beneath a blood moon. He had also been dead for 10 years. Elara almost laughed. Serapha's face warned her not to. "The king has no need of a bride," Elara said. "Every sovereign must be joined before the moon throne may legally pass to another bloodline. His body remains preserved because the goddess has not released him. And you believe marriage will convince death to take him? We conduct a rite of continuance every winter." Elara studied her. "With a new bride each time?" Silence entered the room. A chill crawled beneath Elara's skin. "What happened to the others?" Serapha did not answer. Garen looked toward the fire. Elara placed the pestle down with great care. "You do not need a bride. You need a woman no one will mourn." The priestess stepped closer. "We require someone already touched by death. Your history makes you suitable." "My history makes me convenient." The guards entered behind her. Elara's gaze moved to Garen's clasp. "How much?" He flinched. "How much did they pay you?" "Enough to restore the vineyard," he muttered. Something inside Elara went still. She had believed some tiny part of him remembered carrying her from the ashes after her parents died. She had believed there was a line even he would not cross. There was always another line. People only discovered it when gold was placed on the other side. Serapha unfolded a parchment bearing the royal seal. "You will marry King Lucien at moonrise 3 nights from now. At the completion of the rite, you will join him in sacred rest." "You mean I will be killed?" "You will protect the kingdom. I have seen how this kingdom rewards women who protect it." The priestess's expression sharpened. She stepped close enough for Elara to smell winter roses upon her skin. "You should be grateful. Most cursed women die nameless. Elara meteres. Then remember mine." Something dangerous flickered across Serapha's face. The priestess reached out and placed 2 fingers beneath Elara's chin. The moment their skin touched, the house disappeared. Elara stood in a forest beneath a black moon. Snow covered the earth, but the flakes rose upward into the sky. The trees were burned white, their branches twisting like bones. Somewhere in the darkness, chains rattled. A man knelt within a circle of pale fire. His bare back was covered in wounds that opened and closed with every breath. Black chains ran from his wrists into the roots beneath him. Behind the trees, something enormous paced in the shadows. The creature's silver eyes were level with the highest branches. The kneeling man lifted his head. Elara knew his face. Every coin in the kingdom carried it. Every courthouse displayed it. Every frightened noble still spoke his name with reverence. King Lucien Drax stared directly at her. His lips moved. "Help me." The vision broke. Elara staggered backward and struck the table. Her heart hammered so violently it hurt. Serapha had gone pale. "What did you see?" Elara looked at the woman who had murdered her family, chosen her for sacrifice, and somehow imprisoned a king inside a nightmare. Nothing. The lie came without hesitation. Serapha seized her wrist. What did you see? Elara looked down at the priestess's fingers, then slowly lifted her eyes. I saw a woman who is terrified of a bride she claims is powerless. For one long moment, no one moved. Then Serapha smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the expression of a hunter realizing the wounded animal before her still had teeth. Chain her. The guards bound Elara's wrists in silver. The metal burned. As they dragged her from the house, Garen did not speak her name. He stood beside the hearth counting royal coins, his thumb moving over each piece, as though afraid one might vanish. Elara looked back once, not at him, at the black raven perched above the doorway. Its head tilted, its eyes shone silver. When the riders carried Elara north toward Ashenhold Palace, the raven followed above them through the storm, and somewhere beyond the mountains, inside a forest no living soul was supposed to enter, the dead king lifted his chained head and whispered the name of the woman coming to marry his corpse. Elara. The chains around him tightened. The monstrous wolf in the darkness stopped pacing. Then, for the first time in 10 years, it began to howl. Ashenhold Palace rose from the mountain like something the earth had tried to bury and failed. Its towers were black against the snow, their narrow windows glowing with candlelight. Funeral banners hung from every battlement, stiff in the winter wind. No royal colors flew above the gates. No music welcomed the procession. Only bells sounded from somewhere deep inside the mountain, slow and hollow, counting the years of a king who had never been properly buried. Elara rode between temple guards with silver chains around her wrists. The road narrowed as it climbed. Below them, the capital spread across the valley beneath a sky the color of old bruises. From a distance, it looked magnificent stone bridges, silver roofs, torchlit markets, walls carved with wolves running beneath crescent moons. Up close, it looked hungry. Families stood in line outside temple granaries. Wounded soldiers begged beside statues of Lucien. Children wore shoes wrapped in cloth. Tax collectors in white robes watched every cart that entered the market. At the center of the city stood a towering statue of the dead king. Iron chains had been wrapped around the stone figure from throat to feet. A plaque beneath it read, "He sleeps, so the kingdom may endure." Elara looked at the chains. They did not resemble reverence. They resembled a warning. The palace guards took her through a rear gate, far from the grand entrance used by nobles. Servants paused as she passed. Some crossed themselves. Others turned away. One old woman whispered, "Another one." Elara stopped. The guard behind her struck the chain between her wrists. "Move." She did, but the words followed her through the corridors. Another one. How many brides had walked these halls wearing white? How many had been told their deaths were necessary? How many names had been erased so the kingdom could continue pretending its rituals were holy? They locked Elara inside a stone chamber with no windows. A narrow bed stood against one wall. A basin rested beneath a shelf. The only object of value was a tall mirror covered in black cloth. The door closed. Bolts slid into place. For the first time since the riders arrived, Elara was alone. She stood in the center of the room listening to the palace breathe around her. Pipes groaned behind the walls. Wind moved through distant towers. Somewhere below, wolves howled from the royal kennels. She crossed to the mirror. The cloth had been tied around it with red cord. Elara reached toward the knot. "Do not uncover it." She stopped. The voice had come from behind the glass. Low, male, roughened by pain. Elara turned slowly. No one stood in the room. The voice came again. They watched through the mirrors. Her pulse quickened. "Who are you?" Silence. Then a faint sound, almost a breath against the other side of the glass. "You already know." Elara stared at the covered mirror. "King Lucien." The palace seemed to tighten around the name. "Is that what they still call me? What should I call you?" "A fool who trusted the wrong woman." The answer startled her. Legends described Lucien Drax as merciless, proud, and incapable of regret. No song had ever called him a fool. Elara stepped closer. "Are you dead?" A long pause followed. "I have asked myself that question every night for 10 years. Where are you?" "In the place you saw when Serapha touched you." The black forest rose in Elara's mind. Snow falling upward, chains buried in roots. A giant wolf pacing beyond the fire. "You saw me. No one has entered that forest since the night she imprisoned me." Elara's hands curled. "Why could I?" "Because she has spent 11 years teaching you to fear what you are." A line of frost spread across the mirror beneath the cloth. It formed a crescent moon surrounding a closed eye. Elara knew that mark. It was carved into the stone pestle her mother had left behind. "What does it mean?" Dreamblood. The word moved through her like a memory she had never lived. Lucien continued. Your ancestors could enter the dreams of wounded wolves. They guided lost souls back to their bodies. They sealed creatures that should never have crossed into the waking world. My family owned a vineyard. Your family hid beneath a vineyard. Elara leaned closer to the glass. Why did Serapha kill them? The mirror trembled. Before Lucien could answer, something struck him from the other side. A growl rolled through the room. The sound was so deep that the basin water rippled. What was that? My wolf. Elara remembered the creature in the forest. He is trying to kill you? He is trying to reach me. Another impact shook the mirror. The curse separated us. Every night, he tears at the chains. Every night, Serapha strengthens them. Why? Because my wolf contains something she placed inside me. A scraping sound moved across the glass. Then Lucien's voice lowered. Elara, listen carefully. The wedding is not a marriage. It is an execution. I already know. No. You know they intend to kill your body. You do not know what they intend to do with your soul. Cold entered her bones. The brides before you were ordinary. Their blood could not reach me. Yours can. What happens if it does? She will use your death to open this prison. Then she will feed my soul to the thing inside my wolf. Elara looked toward the door. Why keep your body alive? My blood sustains the wards around the northern borders. If I die completely without a recognized heir or mate, the protections fall. Rival packs invade. Serapha loses the kingdom she rules in my name. So she needs your body and wants your mind destroyed. She has always preferred rulers who cannot speak. Footsteps sounded in the corridor. Lucien's voice became urgent. They will bring you moonroot. Do not drink it. What does it do? It forces sleep. The lock turned. Elara. She pressed her hand against the cloth. Yes? When you stand beside my body, do not trust anything wearing my face, unless it remembers this conversation. The door opened. A temple attendant entered carrying a silver tray. Upon it sat a jeweled cup filled with dark liquid. The young woman kept her eyes lowered. The bride must drink. Elara took the cup. What is it? Sacred moonroot. It will calm your fear. I am not afraid. The attendant looked at her then. Pity flickered across her face. You will be. Elara lifted the cup. She tilted it toward her lips, allowing the liquid to spill silently into the loose sleeve of her gown. The attendant waited until it was empty. Then she left. The moment the door closed, Elara rushed back to the mirror. Lucien? No answer. She waited. Nothing. Only the faint drip of moonroot from her sleeve onto the stone floor. Elara did not sleep that night. At dawn, servants arrived to prepare her for death. They bathed her in freezing water scented with white roses, the funeral flower of the northern packs. They scrubbed her skin until it burned. They combed her hair and measured her body for a gown sewn without color. No servant spoke unless necessary. No one called her by name. To them, she was already becoming part of the ritual. The bride, the offering, the body beside the king. On the second afternoon, a young servant entered carrying bread and broth. She could not have been older than 14. A bruise darkened one cheek. Elara watched her place the tray down. What is your name? The girl froze. Mira. Who struck you, Mira? The servant's eyes darted toward the door. I dropped a ceremonial bowl. Elara tore a strip from the linen beneath the tray. She wrapped crushed ice inside it and held it out. Place this against the bruise. Mira stared at her. I am not permitted to use the bride's belongings. It is not mine anymore. The girl hesitated before accepting it. For a few moments, neither spoke. Then Mira whispered, Will it hurt? Elara thought she meant the bruise. What? The wedding. The question landed heavily. Elara had no gentle answer. I do not know. Mira pressed the ice to her cheek. My mother served in the hall of mourning during the last ceremony. Ilara's throat tightened. What happened? She said the bride kissed the king. Then the high priestess cut her chest open with a silver knife. Mira's voice trembled. She screamed beneath the altar. They burned her before sunrise. Elara closed her eyes. Lucien had warned her about her soul. Now she understood how Serapha intended to release it. Where is your mother? Mira looked toward the floor. She disappeared after telling me. The room became colder. Elara moved toward the covered mirror. Did anyone search for her? Servants are not searched for. The simple truth carried more cruelty than any threat. Elara touched the black cloth. No, she said quietly. They are only forgotten. The mirror cracked. Mira stumbled backward. A thin silver line appeared from top to bottom. Lucien's voice whispered through it. Do not trust the priestess. Mira dropped the ice. Elara pressed one finger to her lips. The girl stared at the mirror, then at Elara. The king? Perhaps. Fear warred with hope across Mira's face. What should I do? Nothing yet. Elara gave her the bread from the tray. Eat before someone takes it from you. Mira hid it inside her apron. Before leaving, she looked back. My mother said the king moved once during the last wedding. Elara's heart stopped. What did she see? His hand tried to reach the bride. The door closed. That night, Elara remained awake beside the mirror. Hours passed. The candle burned low. Then the chamber disappeared around her. Snow touched her bare feet. She stood once more inside the black forest. This time, Lucien was waiting. He emerged from between the white trees wearing a torn black shirt and iron chains around his wrists and throat. Blood marked his skin. His dark hair fell across his brow. He looked younger than the statues. More dangerous, too. The dead body above the palace had been arranged to resemble a peaceful king. This man did not know peace. His gaze moved over her with suspicion. You did not drink. You told me not to. Most people obey priests more quickly than ghosts. You are not a ghost. No? If you were, you would have escaped. Something changed in his expression. Not warmth. Interest. A growl moved through the forest. Lucien stepped between Elara and the trees. Do not run. I had not planned to. That would make you unusual. The beast emerged. It was larger than Elara remembered. Its black fur seemed to consume the light around it. Antlers of bone curved from its skull. Silver cracks covered its body, widening whenever it breathed. The wolf looked at Elara. Rage filled its eyes. But beneath the rage was pain. Lucien raised his chained hands. He will charge. Why? He attacks anything that comes near me. The wolf lowered its head. Snow exploded beneath its paws. It ran toward them. Lucien moved to shield her, but Elara caught his arm. Wait. His muscles went rigid beneath her hand. Elara. The wolf opened its jaws. She stepped around Lucien. The beast stopped inches from her. Its breath covered her skin in frost. Elara trembled. She thought of Tomas beneath river water, Lord Edrin burning with fever, Caleb beneath the rowan tree. Every warning she had ignored. Every person who had paid for coming close. Still, she lifted her hand. The wolf snarled. You have been alone too, she whispered. Its ears moved. Lucien stared at her. The beast's muzzle hovered above her palm. Then, slowly, it pressed against her skin. A shock of silver light traveled up her arm. Images flooded her. Lucien as a child hiding a wounded black cub beneath his bed. Lucien standing alone at his mother's funeral. Lucien chained inside the temple, while Serapha carved a black circle over his heart. The wolf roaring as its soul was torn from his. Elara gasped. The beast pulled away and struck one massive paw against the earth. The ground split open. Beneath the roots lay a chain thicker than all the others. It ran from the wolf's chest toward a distant tower of black stone. Lucien stepped closer. I have never seen that chain. He is not trying to kill you. The beast looked at Lucien and released a broken howl. He is trying to show you where they bound him. Hope appeared in Lucien's eyes. Raw. Unprotected. Then bells began ringing from the tower. Once. Twice. 3 times. The wolf recoiled. Lucien seized Elara's shoulders. She knows you are here. The forest filled with Serapha's voice. Wake up, little bride. The ground opened. Elara fell through darkness. She woke on the chamber floor with blood running from her nose. The covered mirror had shattered down the middle. Outside the door, priests were already chanting. And beneath their voices, Elara heard another sound. A man screaming from somewhere deep inside the palace. Lucien. Then Serapha's voice came through the broken mirror, calm and close. Now I know he can reach you. The chanting outside Elara's chamber stopped, not gradually. Every voice ended on the same breath. Silence pressed against the door. Elara remained on the floor beside the broken mirror. One hand braced against the stone, blood warm beneath her nose. Serapha's words still seemed to hang inside the room. Now I know he can reach you. The lock turned. High Priestess Serapha entered alone. She had removed her silver veil. Without it, her face seemed harder, almost severe enough to be carved from the same black stone as the palace. She closed the door behind her and looked at the crack running through the mirror. You should have drunk the moonroot. Elara rose slowly. You should have killed me before bringing me close to him. Serapha's eyes narrowed. That would have wasted your blood. There was no reason to hide the truth now. The priestess approached, her white robes making no sound against the floor. What did he show you? Elara wiped the blood from her mouth. A forest. What else? Cha. Serapha stopped. Elara saw the smallest movement in her jaw. What did the wolf show you? The priestess asked. So she knew about the beast. Elara kept her expression still. It tried to tear me apart. Serapha studied her for so long that Elara heard her own heartbeat. Then the priestess smiled. Good. She reached out, but this time Elara stepped back before she could touch her. Serapha's smile faded. Do not mistake one dream for power. Lucien has been calling through that prison for 10 years. Others heard him. They all died. The brides, some of them. Elara's stomach tightened. How many? The priestess turned toward the covered window, as though the number did not matter. Enough to teach me that ordinary blood could not open the final gate. You murdered them while searching for someone like me. I gave their deaths purpose. No. You gave your ambition a sacred name. Serapha faced her. For a moment, anger stripped away the calm authority she wore before the court. You speak of ambition because you have never carried a kingdom. You have never watched rival alphas gather at weakened borders. You have never seen famine follow a civil war or children freeze because a king valued mercy over fear. And you believe fear has saved them? I know it has. Then why are they starving beneath his statues? The priestess crossed the room in 2 strides and struck Elara across the face. Pain flashed through her. Elara did not cry out. Serapha's breathing changed. She had expected fear. Elara lifted her head. You are losing control. The priestess seized her chin. Tomorrow night, before every alpha in the kingdom, you will kneel beside Lucien's body. You will drink what I give you. You will kiss him. And when your blood opens the dream gate, I will end what should have died 10 years ago. What happens to his wolf? It will become useful. Elara thought of the massive creature pressing its scarred muzzle into her palm. What did you place inside him? Serapha released her, something stronger than conscience. She turned and left. The lock closed. Elara waited until the footsteps faded before touching the mirror. Lucien. Nothing answered. She tried again. Lucien. Only cold glass beneath her fingers. By sunset, temple servants arrived with the wedding gown. It was beautiful in the way tombs were beautiful. White silk fell from the shoulders in long, severe lines. Silver thread formed closed eyes across the sleeves. The bodice was embroidered with black thorns, each tipped with a tiny bead of crimson glass. The servants fastened it around Elara without speaking. Mira stood among them. Her bruise had faded, but fear had not. When the others turned away, the girl slipped something into Elara's palm. A narrow iron key. My mother hid it before she disappeared, Mira whispered. It opens the passage behind the king's library. Why give it to me? Because she said if another bride ever heard him speak, I should help her reach the old rooms. Elara closed her fingers around the key. What is inside? I do not know. A senior servant looked toward them. Mira stepped away. That night, Elara waited. Near midnight, the guards outside changed shifts. She heard boots retreat, then lower voices farther down the corridor. She moved to the door. Locked. The key Mira had given her did not fit. Of course it did not. It belonged to the library passage. Elara returned to the mirror. The crack through the glass had widened. She placed both palms against it. If you can hear me, I need help. For several moments nothing happened. Then a silver paw pressed against the glass from the other side. Not Lucien. The wolf. Elara did not move. The paw was larger than her head. Black claws scraped across the mirror, but the beast did not strike. A small shape emerged through the crack. A wolf cub tumbled onto the floor. Elara stared. It was no larger than a house cat, with black fur and one white paw. Silver eyes blinked up at her. The cub sneezed. You are not what I expected. It bit the hem of her gown and pulled toward the wall. There is no door there. The cub released an impatient growl. Elara followed. Behind the bed, the small animal scratched at a stone, marked with the same closed-eye symbol carved into her mother's pestle. Elara pressed her hand to it. The wall remembered. For one heartbeat, she saw women in silver robes moving through a hidden corridor. They carried bowls of blue fire. One looked directly at Elara across centuries and spoke without sound. Blood opens what stone conceals. Elara found the bruise where Serapha had struck her. The inside of her mouth was still cut. She pressed a bloodied finger against the symbol. The stone door opened. The cub darted inside. Elara followed through darkness. The passage sloped upward beneath the palace. Cold air moved across her face. The wolf cub ran ahead, pausing whenever she fell behind. Did Lucien send you? The animal glanced back. I will assume that means yes. The corridor ended behind a carved wooden panel. Elara pushed. It opened into a dark library. Dust covered the tables. Shelves rose to the ceiling, filled with books untouched for years. A cold fireplace stood opposite tall windows overlooking the mountains. This had been Lucien's private study. His presence remained everywhere. Maps were pinned to one wall. A half-finished game of kings and wolves sat upon a table. A military coat hung beside the door, one sleeve torn and still marked with dried blood. Near the hearth lay a faded blanket. The cub circled upon it. A memory struck Elara. Lucien, perhaps 12 years old, kneeling beside the same blanket, while a weak black cub slept beneath his hand. A man's voice thundered outside the room. All malformed wolves are to be drowned before moonrise. Young Lucien gathered the cub against his chest. Then I will drown with him. The vision ended. Elara looked down. The dream cub had vanished. A floorboard creaked behind her. She turned. A man stood in the doorway with a sword pointed at her heart. Commander Rowan Thorne had watched her enter the palace from beside Serapha's throne. A scar ran from his left temple to his jaw, cutting through one dark eyebrow. He wore the black armor of the royal guard. He closed the door. "How did you enter this room?" Elara lifted her hands. "There is a passage from my chamber. No one has used that passage since the king fell." "Then you should ask why a servant girl knew where to find the key." His sword remained steady. "You stand accused of entering His Majesty's dreams." "I did not enter willingly." "But you spoke with him." "Yes." Emotion flashed in Rowan's eyes. Hope, quickly buried. "What did he say?" Elara studied him. "How do I know you still serve him?" The commander's expression hardened. "I have protected his body for 10 years, while Serapha used it as a throne." The sword moved closer. "Careful." "Why?" "Tomorrow she intends to cut my heart open. I have little reason for caution." Rowan's jaw tightened. Elara looked around the room. "If Lucien trusted you, he may have left something here." The commander's eyes followed hers. Together, they searched. They found sealed military orders, coded reports, and lists of temple payments. Nothing directly named Serapha. Then Elara noticed a black wooden box beneath the game table. The royal wolf on its lid had one silver eye. She touched it. The dream mark on her palm burned. The box opened. Inside lay a single letter bearing Rowan's family crest. The commander took it. His face changed as he read. "What does it say?" Elara asked. He did not answer. She stepped closer. The writing was sharp and controlled. "Rowan, if I fail to return from the temple, Serapha has moved against the crown. Protect my body, but trust no vision bearing my face. The dream paths are compromised. My wolf is not the enemy." The letter was dated the night before Lucien's death. Rowan read it again, then a third time. "For 10 years, he said, she told us he entered sacred sleep by choice. She lied. She said waking him would destroy the border wards. That part may be true. His blood holds them." The commander lowered the page. "If I help you and you are wrong, every rival pack will cross the mountains. If you do nothing, Serapha turns his wolf into a weapon." Rowan looked toward the windows. Far below, temple bells began sounding the final hours before the wedding. "What did you see in the dream?" he asked. "A chain running from his wolf into a black tower." The commander went still. "Describe the tower." "Tall, narrow windows, a mouth at the base." Rowan's face lost color. "The old temple has a tower beneath the palace. It was sealed after Serapha's father died. Lucien executed him." The commander looked at her sharply. "You know? Serapha told me enough to expose her hatred." Rowan sheathed his sword. "My king carried out the sentence, but the evidence came from surviving children. The old priest placed nightmare spirits inside them. He claimed fear made wolves obedient. And Serapha continued his work. Perhaps, not perhaps." Elara stepped closer. "Tomorrow she will force me into Lucien's prison. I need to break the chain." "How?" "I do not know yet. That is not reassuring. It is still more than anyone else has done in 10 years. Rowan looked at the letter, then he folded it and placed it inside his armor. "I can change the guards around the altar. I can ensure some remain loyal to Lucien rather than the temple." "Some?" "Serapha has spent 10 years appointing officers." He looked at Elara. "When the ceremony begins, you may have only moments. I have lived most of my life on moments no one expected me to survive." Something like respect entered his face. He opened the door. "Return before they discover you missing." Elara moved toward the hidden passage. "Elara." She turned. "If he wakes, he may not be the man you met in the forest. I know. The curse may have damaged his mind. His wolf may attack everyone in the hall. I know. And if the border wards fail, thousands could die." She held his gaze. "Then tomorrow, Commander, you will discover whether you have protected a king for 10 years or merely guarded a body because you were afraid to question a priestess." The words wounded him. That was not why she regretted them. It was because they were true. Elara returned to her chamber before dawn. The wedding began at moonrise. The hall of mourning was filled beyond capacity. Rival alphas stood beneath banners from every northern pack. Noble women wore black veils. Council lords gathered around the moon throne, already imagining who might claim it after Lucien's final death. At the end of the aisle lay the king. His body rested upon black marble. A crown of thorns encircled his brow. His hands were folded over Nightfang. Elara entered in white. Whispers followed her. The death bride. The hollow woman. 3 graves walked beside her. Her uncle Garen sat among the lesser nobles wearing a new wine-colored cloak. He looked at her once, then lowered his eyes. Elara felt the old wound open, not because she still expected love from him, because some small, foolish part of her had hoped shame might make him stand. It did not. She continued toward the altar. Serapha waited with a silver knife. The moon throne has waited 10 winters for release, the priestess announced. Tonight, a bride touched by death will guide our sleeping sovereign beyond the veil. A servant offered Elara a jeweled cup. Moonroot, Serapha smiled. Drink. Elara accepted it. The entire court watched. She raised the cup to her lips, then let it fall. It shattered across the marble. Gasps moved through the hall. Serapha's expression did not change. An unfortunate tremor. I am not trembling, Elara said. The priestess's eyes turned cold. Knail. Elara knelt beside Lucien. Serapha bound their wrists together with crimson cord. Lucien looked perfectly dead. Too peaceful. Elara leaned close. Do you remember the covered mirror? She whispered. Nothing happened. Her heart sank. Serapha lifted the knife. Give your final breath to your king. Elara kissed him. Cold lips. Stillness. Then warmth moved beneath her mouth. Lucien's fingers closed around her wrist. His eyes opened. The mirrors shattered. Silver reflections filled the air, showing 2 crowned rulers. Lucien looked directly at her. I remember, he breathed. Then the monstrous wolf erupted from his chest. Elara threw herself over him. The beast struck. Pain tore through her back. The hall vanished. She crashed into the black forest. Lucien was already there, chained before the tower. But this time, he was not alone. Serapha stood behind him with one hand buried inside his chest. She looked at Elara and smiled. You came exactly where I needed you, Lucien screamed. Serapha pulled. A silver-black heart began emerging from his body, beating inside her hand. And the tower opened its mouth. The tower opened its mouth. Not a doorway. A mouth. Rows of stone teeth unfolded beneath the black walls, and behind them waited a darkness so deep that even the silver fire around Lucien's chains bent toward it. The forest screamed as roots tore from the ground. Snow rose in violent spirals. Above them, the dead moon split down the middle. Serapha pulled again. The silver-black heart emerged farther from Lucien's chest. He dropped to one knee with a sound Elara would remember for the rest of her life. Not the roar of a king, not the cry of a warrior, but the broken breath of a man whose soul was being torn from him, while he remained conscious enough to feel every inch. Elara, he gasped. Wake up. She ran toward him. The earth lengthened beneath her feet. Every step carried her farther away. Serapha's smile widened. You still believe courage can change the shape of a prison. Elara stopped running. The tower's mouth inhaled. Within the darkness, hundreds of voices began whispering. The previous brides. She heard them crying beneath ceremonial knives. She heard prayers cut short by blood. She heard women begging Lucien's lifeless body to help them, while Serapha opened their chests. One voice rose above the others. Mira's mother. Remember us. Elara looked at the chains around Lucien. Each one contained a face. A servant. A soldier. A child. Serapha had not built the prison from stone. She had built it from fear. No one had been permitted to speak aloud. You cannot pull him free, Serapha said. Every soul fed to this place holds him tighter. Elara looked at Lucien. Blood ran from his mouth. His dark hair clung to his face, yet his eyes remained fixed upon her, still trying to command her to save herself. Even now, even while dying, he believed protection meant enduring pain alone. Just as Elara had believed love meant keeping everyone far enough away to survive her, Serapha had chosen their wounds carefully. Isolation had kept Lucien obedient. Shame had kept Elara hidden. The truth struck with such force that the forest seemed to become perfectly still around it. Elara placed one hand over the mark burning beneath her palm. What is bound in fear, she whispered, may be released through truth. The tower shuddered. Serapha's expression changed. You do not know the old words. My mother did. Elara closed her eyes. Dreamblood memory opened. She no longer stood only within the forest. She stood inside every sacrifice that had fed it. She saw the first bride dragged toward Lucien's body, while priest told her that obedience would save her family. She saw a soldier forced to surrender his wolf, because Serapha promised the kingdom would honor him. She saw children chained beneath the temple, and taught that terror was weakness, leaving the body. Elara felt their fear. Then she felt what lay beneath it. Anger, love, names, truths that had never died, only waited. She opened her eyes. Lydia Marin, she said. A chain shattered. Serapha recoiled. Elara spoke another name. Onyavos. A second chain broke. The darkness inside the tower screamed. Stop, Serapha commanded. Elisa Thorn. Another chain fell. Lucien lifted his head. The silver-black heart remained trapped in Serapha's hand, but its rhythm strengthened. Elara continued. One name after another. Names Mira had whispered, while servants prepared the hall. Names Rowan had found hidden in old temple records. Names Elara had heard in the darkness beneath the palace. Each truth broke another link. Across the waking world, the black mirrors in the Hall of Mourning burst into light. The court saw everything. They saw the brides dying. They saw Serapha standing over children. They saw Lucien trapped inside the forest, while his preserved body was used to justify laws he had never spoken. Nobles screamed and turned away. Commander Rowan did not. Look, he roared. All of you, look at what your silence protected. Serapha felt the court witnessing her crimes. Rage twisted her face. She released Lucien's heart and drove both hands into the earth. The tower split open. The hollow wolf emerged. It had no true body. It borrowed shapes from every nightmare surrounding it. Antlers, claws, human hands, wolf jaws. The faces of dead brides stretched across its hide. It rose higher than the trees, pale and starving, with an empty circle where its eyes should have been. Lucien's black wolf charged from the forest. The two beasts collided. The impact tore the dream sky apart. Lucien screamed again as wounds opened across his human body, wherever the hollow creature struck his wolf. Elara reached him. She seized the chains around his wrists. Tell me how to send you back. You cannot while the hollow wolf lives. Then we kill it. It feeds upon fear. Every wound makes it stronger. The monstrous creature threw Lucien's wolf against the tower. Bone cracked. The black beast tried to rise and failed. Lucien's knees struck the ground. Elara, listen to me. No. If the prison collapses before the creature is destroyed, it will enter my body. Then stunned. I cannot. You have been standing alone for 10 years. She took his face between her hands. You do not have to do it alone now. His eyes searched hers. The mate mark flared between them. Serapha saw it. No. For the first time, her voice carried panic. She raised one hand, and the forest changed around Elara. Tomas stood between the trees, water dripping from his hair. Lord Edrin appeared beside him, pale with fever. Caleb hung beneath the rowan branches. All three looked at her. The old guilt returned so violently that Elara nearly lost her grip on Lucien. Tomas stepped forward. You destroy every man who loves you. Lucien stiffened. He could see them too. Elara's breath broke. She had spent 11 years imagining those words. Serapha moved closer. Complete the bond and he will die like the others. Caleb's body swung gently from the tree. Leave him, Elara. The hollow wolf turned toward them. It had found her deepest fear. Lucien reached for her hand, then stopped before touching it. Even now, he would not force comfort upon her. Elara, he said quietly, look at me. She could not. If you believe she speaks the truth, wake yourself. His voice shook, but he continued. If remaining beside me feels like another chain, go. Tears blurred the forest. Lucien was giving her the very thing Serapha had stolen from every victim. Choice. Elara looked at Tomas. The real Tomas had stuttered whenever he lied. This nightmare spoke without hesitation. The real Caleb had hated rowan flowers because they made him sneeze. The body hanging before her wore them around his throat. These were not the dead. They were her guilt wearing familiar faces. Elara turned away from them. I did not kill you. The figures trembled. Serapha did. Their bodies cracked like glass. And I will not allow her crimes to decide whom I am permitted to love. The nightmares shattered. Silver fire erupted from Elara's body. Not violent fire. Living light. It moved across her skin in branches like those she had carried after shielding Lucien at the altar. The closed eye within the crescent moon opened upon her chest. The entire forest awakened. The white trees turned silver. Snow reversed direction and began falling gently toward the earth. The black moon filled with light. Serapha stared. The first Dreamblood. Elara understood then. Her lineage had not merely entered dreams. They had ruled the boundary between fear and memory. The previous brides appeared around her, no longer screaming. Their translucent forms stood in torn white gowns, faces peaceful now that their names had returned. Mira's mother stepped forward. "You heard us." Elara lowered her head. "I'm sorry it took so long." The woman smiled. Then every dead bride turned toward the hollow wolf. They placed their hands together. The creature recoiled. It had fed upon their terror when they died alone. Remembered together, they were no longer food. They were judgment. Lucien's Wolf rose. Its broken bones straightened. Silver light burned through its black fur. The monstrous antlers remained, but now they resembled a crown rather than a curse. It looked toward Lucien. Man and wolf faced one another for the first time without chains between them. Lucien slowly extended his hand. The wolf approached. When its muzzle touched his palm, the dream realm shook. 10 years of pain moved through him. Elara felt it through their unfinished bond, the loneliness, the guilt, the moments when he had begged death to come, and the deeper terror that waking would reveal a kingdom that no longer wanted him. She took his other hand. "I want you to return." His eyes met hers. "As my king?" he asked. "No." The answer surprised him. "As yourself." The wolf dissolved into silver-black light. It entered Lucien's chest. His back arched. The hollow wolf charged. Serapha screamed for it to consume him. Lucien opened his eyes. They burned brighter than the moon. He caught the creature by its throat. The king and the nightmare crashed through the tower wall. Stone teeth shattered around them. The dead brides held the darkness back, while Elara placed both hands upon the tower's roots. Memories flooded her. Serapha as a young girl kneeling beside her father after Lucien's sword had taken his head. Serapha promising she would build a kingdom no king could threaten. Serapha discovering her father's hidden chambers and seeing the wounded children he had used. For one moment, she had been horrified. Then she had chosen to believe the victims were necessary because accepting the truth would mean her father had deserved punishment. Her entire life had grown from that refusal. Elara looked at her. "You knew." Serapha went still. "You knew what he did to those children?" The priestess's face cracked. "He was protecting us." "No. You were protecting the memory of a man who never deserved your loyalty." Silence. "You turned his crimes into doctrine because grief was easier to bear when you called it purpose." Serapha struck Elara with a wave of shadow. Elara staggered but did not fall. The dead brides moved behind her. Lucien drove the hollow wolf toward the open mouth of the tower. "Now!" he roared. Elara opened every stolen memory at once. Truth poured through the prison. The children remembered their names. The soldiers remembered their wolves. The brides remembered they had never chosen sacrifice. The hollow creature shrank. Lucien's black wolf tore free from his body once more, seized the nightmare by the throat, and dragged it into the tower. Serapha ran toward them. "No." She reached the entrance just as the stone mouth began closing. Lucien caught her wrist. For a heartbeat, he could have pulled her to safety. The court would later argue over what passed between them in that moment. Elara saw it clearly. Serapha looked at the king she had imprisoned and expected vengeance. Lucien looked at the woman who had destroyed 10 years of his life. Then he offered her a choice. "Release it," he said. "Let the nightmare die." Serapha looked into the tower where the hollow wolf writhed. Without it, she would lose her magic, her youth, and every illusion that had protected her rule. She tightened her grip on its shadow. "I built this kingdom." "No," Lucien said. "You built a cage." The tower pulled her forward. Lucien tried to hold her. Serapha could have released the nightmare. She did not. The stone mouth closed around them both. Lucien tore his hand free at the final instant. The tower collapsed. The dream forest exploded into silver light. Elara fell. Lucien caught her before she struck the ground. The world dissolved. They woke together upon the altar. Lucien drew his first true breath in 10 years. The sound silenced the hall of mourning. His body convulsed as life rushed through frozen veins. The thorn crown split upon his brow. His armor cracked across the chest. Silver light poured from the wound where Serapha had tried to remove his heart. Elara lay beside him, bleeding from her arm and back. Serapha's waking body stood near the altar. For one terrible moment, nothing happened. Then every year she had stolen returned at once. Her black hair turned white. Her smooth skin withered. Her knees buckled. The silver knife fell from her hand. Temple guards moved to protect her. Commander Rowan drew his sword. "Stand down." Some obeyed. Others attacked. Chaos erupted. Rival alphas shifted. Nobles fled. Shadows escaped from broken mirrors and entered soldiers. twisting their bodies into monstrous shapes. Lucien rose. Weakness shook him, but power filled the hall so completely that every wolf felt it. Nightfang flew from the altar into his hand. He cut through the first shadow creature. "Elara," he said without looking back. "Can you close the chambers?" She felt them beneath the palace. Hundreds of wounds in the earth. Not alone. Mira stepped from among the servants. "Tell us what to do." Others followed. A kitchen maid. A wounded guard. An old noblewoman whose daughter had disappeared during the second winter ritual. Commander Rowan knelt beside Elara. "Use us." Elara drew the Dreamblood symbol upon the floor with her blood. "Speak the truth the nightmares buried." Hands joined around the circle. The hall filled with confession. "I knew servants disappeared, and I did not ask where they went. I followed orders because disobedience frightened me more than cruelty. I accepted temple grain, while children outside my estate starved. I told myself the brides volunteered. Each truth extinguished another nightmare chamber. The shadows screamed and vanished. Lucien fought his way toward Serapha. She crawled toward the moon throne. "You need me," she gasped. "The borders will fall. The council will turn against you. They fear what you have become." Lucien placed Nightfang beneath her chin. The court waited for blood. Elara stood. "Do not kill her." Shock moved through the hall. Serapha laughed weakly. "Mercy. Your mother suffered from the same disease." Elara approached. "This is not mercy." She turned toward the court. "Open every chamber beneath this palace. Record every victim. Let every family see what was done in the name of protection." Serapha's face changed. Death did not frighten her. Exposure did. Lucien understood. He lowered the sword. "Bind her in dream iron," he commanded. The former temple guards hesitated. His wolf appeared behind him, vast and black, silver eyes burning beneath antlers of moonlit bone. Every wolf in the hall lowered its head. The guards obeyed. As Serapha was dragged away, she looked at Elara. "You believe he will love you when the fear fades?" Elara looked at Lucien. He stood alive, powerful, and uncertain. "No," she said. "I believe that will be his choice." Silence followed. Lucien walked toward her. The nobles began kneeling, one after another, expecting their resurrected king to reclaim the throne. He passed them. He stopped before Elara. Then the Dark King bent one knee. A gasp traveled through the court. "You should not kneel," Elara whispered. "This court brought you here to die beneath my name." His voice carried to every corner of the hall. "My crown was used to imprison you. My silence was used to excuse murder. Before I ask anything of you, they will understand that you stand beneath no one." He lifted his empty hand. "The bond names you my mate. The mirrors showed you as queen. Neither grants me the right to claim you." Elara's throat tightened. All her life, others had named her. Curse. Omen. Sacrifice. Lucien offered no name she had not chosen. "What are you asking?" she said. "One day." His silver eyes held hers. "Then another, if you still wish it. Until you decide whether the man who returned deserves the woman who called him home." Elara looked around the hall. Mira stood crying beside the servants. Rowan held one fist over his heart. Garen knelt among the nobles, unable to meet her eyes. Elara felt no desire to punish him. That surprised her. Power was not the ability to make those who hurt her suffer. It was the freedom to stop carrying them. She looked back at Lucien. "Rise." He did. Their hands met. The mate mark flared between their palms. The mirrors repaired themselves with veins of silver. They no longer showed Elara wearing a crown beside a corpse. They showed two wolves running beneath the moon. Neither followed. Neither led. Months passed before Elara accepted the crown of ash. Lucien did not ask twice. He rebuilt the council, opened the temple prisons, and returned grain to the southern villages. He listened when Elara challenged him, and learned, with visible difficulty, that protection offered without consent could become another form of control. Their love did not arrive as sudden surrender. It grew through arguments, quiet nights, and choices repeated. He brought her reports because he trusted her judgment. She entered his dreams only when he asked. When nightmares woke him, she did not tell him they were over. She reminded him that he was no longer alone inside them. When villagers still touched iron at the sight of her, Lucien wanted to punish them. Elara stopped him. "Fear taught slowly does not disappear by command. What do you suggest?" "Let them watch me live." So they did. They watched the Hollow Bride walk through markets without death following. They watched her heal children, honor the murdered brides, and stand before rival alphas without lowering her eyes. 1 year after Lucien awakened, the Hall of Mourning opened again. The funeral banners were gone. The shattered mirrors remained, joined with silver so no one would forget they had once revealed the truth. Elara walked toward the altar in a gown the color of midnight. No chains circled her wrists. Mira carried the crown of ash. Lucien waited where his corpse had once lain. When Elara reached him, he lifted the crown. Tradition demanded that the king place it upon his queen. Instead, he offered it to her. Elara took it in both hands. Before placing it upon her head, she turned toward the kingdom. The last time I stood here, my death was called necessary. Women before me were erased because powerful people feared what their survival might reveal. Her voice did not shake. Fear will always exist in this kingdom, but it will no longer decide who deserves a name, a choice, or a place beside the throne. She crowned herself. Every mirror flashed. The old vision returned. Matching crowns. Kneeling wolves. 2 thrones. But this time, Lucien did not stand before her. He stood beside her. "My queen," he said. "My king." The hall erupted in howls. Later, when the palace had grown quiet, they stood alone before the altar. Lucien touched the silver scar across Elara's palm. "Do you ever regret kissing a dead man?" She considered him. "You were less argumentative then." His laughter moved through the mate bond, warm and startled, as if part of him still could not believe joy had found him. Then his expression softened. "Are you afraid?" Elara understood. Not of him. Of love. Of tomorrow. Of everything Serapha had taught them to fear. Yes. Lucien rested his forehead against hers. "So when Elara smiled. "Then we will tell each other the truth." Outside, the black wolf ran beneath the moon, no longer monstrous and no longer alone. Elara kissed the king who had opened his eyes beneath her lips. This time, when his eyes closed, it was not death. It was trust. And deep within Ashenhold Palace, every mirror filled with living silver light.